There are things in this world that seem harmless, even promising. Power, influence, and success, these lure even the strongest. Many think they can grasp them while keeping their soul intact. But history tells another story. The mightiest have fallen not because they lacked strength, but because they ignored the warning signs. Kings have lost kingdoms, prophets have lost their voices, and great men have become nothing more than whispers in forgotten books, all because they thought they could pay the price and still escape the consequence. There is a law older than time itself that governs the fate of the chosen. You cannot serve two masters. To step onto forbidden ground, to take what is not yours, to defy the call within you, these things come at a cost, and that cost is far greater than the temporary reward. It is a foolish man who mistakes silence for approval. God warns before he acts. He places signs along the way, hesitations in the heart, whispers in the mind, the sudden urge to turn back before crossing a dangerous threshold. But men in their arrogance often mistake these as doubts rather than divine intervention. They press forward, thinking they are wise, not realizing that wisdom would have told them to stop. Do you think you are the first to be tempted? Do you believe you are the first to be offered the world at the cost of your soul? The stories have been written, the warnings spoken, and yet, generation after generation, the same mistake is made. They believe the price is worth it until they find out it isn't. There's a lie that has crept into the minds of men that submission is weakness, that those who refuse to bow to temptation lack courage. But true strength is not in the man who takes what he wants. It is in the one who walks away when every fiber of his being tells him to stay. The chosen do not live like the rest of the world. They do not take what is easy or convenient. They do not accept every offer, nor do they entertain every temptation. They see the greater picture, the eternal consequence, and they say, "No, I will not pay this price." There will come a moment in your life, a defining choice. It may not look like a grand battle. It may be as simple as a contract, a conversation, a decision made in the secrecy of your heart. But in that moment, the weight of your calling will press upon you. To be chosen is not a privilege in the way the world defines privilege. It is not a guarantee of ease, comfort, or worldly success. Instead, it is a summons to a life that demands more, a calling that sets one apart, often at great personal cost. Those who are chosen are marked, whether they acknowledge it or not. They walk through life with a sense of purpose that others may not recognize, and with that purpose comes a responsibility that is both heavy and inescapable. Many long for significance, hoping to be chosen for something greater than themselves. They dream of being called to lead, to influence, to stand in places of power. But they fail to see the full picture. They see only the outward symbols of being set apart, the admiration, the recognition, the sense of fulfillment. What they do not see is the weight that comes with it, the loneliness, the sacrifices, the unrelenting expectations. To be chosen is to bear a burden that others do not, to be held to a higher standard than those who live without such a calling. The chosen ones are not permitted to live as others do. Where others may indulge, they must refrain. Where others may compromise, they must stand firm. A path that is open to many is often closed to them, and the decisions that seem insignificant for others carry profound consequences for those who are called. The world will not understand why certain things are off limits to them, why they cannot follow the crowd, why they cannot take what appears to be an easy and harmless road. But what is permissible for others is not always permissible for the chosen. This weight is not always immediately apparent. In the beginning, the call may seem exciting, even desirable. There is a thrill in knowing one is meant for something more, a sense of purpose that energizes the soul. But over time, the reality of the burden begins to set in. The trials come. The moments of isolation become more frequent. The temptations grow stronger, and the cost of obedience becomes clearer. The realization dawns that to be chosen means to be tested, to be refined, to be stripped of all that does not align with the calling. One of the greatest struggles for those who are chosen is the question of why their path is so much harder than others. They watch as those who have no regard for higher things seem to prosper. They see those who compromise advancing without consequence, while they themselves suffer for doing what is right. It is in these moments that the weight of being chosen feels the heaviest. The temptation arises to abandon the calling, to walk away, to trade the burden for the ease of a common life. But those who are truly chosen cannot escape their calling. Even if they try to blend in, something within them will never be at peace. The weight of being chosen is not merely about the struggles faced in the present, it is about the future that is being shaped. The trials, the sacrifices, and the discipline are not meaningless burdens, but refining fires. They are preparing the chosen ones for what lies ahead, shaping them into who they are meant to be. The weight is not there to crush them, but to strengthen them, to purify them, to set them apart in a way that will make them unshakable. Yet, this understanding does not always come easily. Many resist the weight, fighting against the path set before them. They look for ways to lighten the burden, to make the calling more convenient, to hold on to both their purpose and their personal desires at the same time. But there comes a moment when every chosen one must decide, will they embrace the weight, or will they run from it? Will they accept the cost, or will they trade their destiny for temporary ease? The weight of being chosen is both a challenge and a gift. It is the proof that one is meant for more than an ordinary existence. It is the sign that one has been entrusted with something sacred, something that must be carried with honor and integrity. Those who bear this weight will not always be understood, nor will their journey be easy. But in the end, they will see that the burden was never meant to harm them. It was meant to set them apart, to make them into something greater, something unshakable, something worthy of the calling they have received. Defiance is not simply the act of disobedience. It is the conscious rejection of a higher order, a deliberate step away from the path laid out for those who are chosen. The consequences of such defiance are not always immediate, which is why many mistake delay for exemption. But judgment is not absent simply because it is unseen. It moves slowly, deliberately giving room for repentance before it arrives with full force. The pattern of downfall is often the same. It begins with a small act, something that seems insignificant. A compromise here, an ignored warning there. The chosen ones believe they can walk close to the edge without falling, that they can bend the rules without breaking them. They convince themselves that because no immediate consequence follows, they have outmaneuvered judgment. But the divine order is not mocked. What is sown will always be reaped, and what is built on defiance will always crumble. History provides endless examples. A leader entrusted with a mission abandons his integrity for personal gain and loses everything. A man called to greatness chooses ease over discipline and fades into irrelevance. A nation blessed with divine favor turns to corruption and suffers destruction. The fall of the mighty is never random. It is the inevitable outcome of decisions made long before the collapse is visible. The consequence of defiance is not a single event, but a series of fractures forming beneath the surface, unseen until the final breaking point. Some believe they can contain the effects of their disobedience, that their choices impact only themselves. But defiance has a ripple effect. A chosen one who strays does not fall alone. Their influence carries others with them, those who trusted them, those who followed them, those who depended on them to stand firm. When they fall, they leave behind a wake of destruction, harming not just themselves, but everyone connected to them. The greater the calling, the greater the responsibility, and the greater the devastation when that responsibility is abandoned. The weight of divine anger is not reckless wrath, but measured justice. It is not an emotional outburst, but a response to the choices made by those who should have known better. The chosen are given much, and therefore much is required of them. To whom responsibility is entrusted, accountability is certain. There is no escaping this law. The higher the position, the greater the expectation, and the more severe the consequence of failure. Defiance often comes from deception, the belief that there will be time to fix things later, that one can walk the wrong path for a while and turn back before it's too late. But the road of defiance is rarely straight. It twists and turns, leading further away than the traveler intended. The longer one stays on it, the harder it becomes to return. By the time the chosen ones recognize how far they have gone, they may find that the way back is no longer within their reach. Many are deceived by the silence that follows their defiance. They mistake patience for indifference, thinking that because judgment does not come instantly, it will not come at all. But judgment is not always a storm that arrives suddenly. It is often a drought that slowly withers everything once flourishing. What was once vibrant begins to fade. What once thrived begins to wither. The favor that once surrounded them is no longer there. It is not an immediate strike, but a gradual unraveling until one day they wake up and realize they have lost what they once took for granted. The most dangerous consequence of defiance is not external destruction, but internal blindness. The heart grows hard, the mind becomes resistant to truth. The spirit that once burned with purpose grows cold. The warnings that once caused fear no longer stir the conscience. What was once unacceptable becomes tolerable, and what was once tolerable becomes habitual. When a chosen one reaches this state, they are not merely in danger, they are already lost. There are always warnings before the fall, a moment of hesitation before a wrong decision, a voice in the mind whispering that this is not the way, a sign, a message, a circumstance that urges a return to the right path. But defiance is loud, drowning out the warnings, silencing the internal alarms. Those who choose to ignore them seal their fate long before the consequences arrive. Defiance is not an isolated act, it is a path. Every small step away from the calling, every justification for wrongdoing, every ignored warning is another step down that road. And at the end of that road, there is no turning back. The chosen are not given the luxury of walking both paths. They must decide obedience or destruction, purpose or ruin, life or loss. The consequences of that decision are absolute. The world is filled with things that shine wealth, power, influence, admiration. They call out like a mirage in the desert, promising fulfillment, promising ease, promising a life where one lacks nothing. Many look at these things and believe they are worth pursuing at any cost. They see them as rewards, as proof of success, as the ultimate validation of their worth. But what they do not see is the price that must be paid, the unseen cost that turns every earthly gain into a potential curse rather than a blessing. Temptation rarely presents itself as something destructive. It disguises itself as an opportunity, as a rare chance that must not be missed. It speaks in the language of urgency, whispering that if one does not take what is offered now, they may never get another chance. It convinces the chosen that their destiny is within reach if only they are willing to bend, to compromise, to step slightly outside the boundaries set before them. And so they take the deal. They justify it. They tell themselves it is just one small thing, that it will not truly matter in the grand scheme. But every compromise has consequences. What appears to be a small step is often the beginning of a journey that leads far away from the original path. The chosen ones believe they are in control, that they can have both righteousness and success, integrity and convenience, obedience and prosperity. They think they can make their own rules, navigate their own way, balance both worlds without losing their soul. But they soon discover that the cost was greater than they imagined. The moment they trade what is right for what is easy, they have begun the process of losing what was truly meant for them. Some gain wealth but lose their peace. Others gain influence but lose their integrity. Some reach great heights but find themselves surrounded by emptiness, with no true allies, no real purpose, no sense of meaning. There are those who achieve everything they ever wanted, only to find that none of it satisfies. They stand at the top of the world and realize they are still searching, still hungry, still haunted by the knowledge that they sacrificed something greater for something temporary. The illusion of earthly gain is its ability to hide its true nature. It does not reveal its emptiness until it is too late. It does not show its destructive power until the damage has already been done. The man who chases power believes it will make him strong, but he does not see how it turns him into a slave bound to the opinions of others, trapped in the fear of losing what he has built. The one who compromises for wealth believes it will bring security, but he does not see how it chains him to anxiety, to greed, to a life where he is never satisfied no matter how much he acquires. Many believe they can handle the cost. They tell themselves they are different, that they will know when to stop, that they will not let success consume them. But history tells another story. Again and again, those who thought they could control their desires became controlled by them. The pursuit of gain, once started, rarely ends by choice. It demands more and more and more until the one who sought to own the world finds that the world owns him instead. True fulfillment does not come from what can be taken, earned, or achieved. It comes from what cannot be lost, what is eternal, what remains when everything else fades. The chosen ones are not meant to live like the rest of the world, chasing shadows, grasping at illusions, selling their souls for things that do not last. They were meant to stand apart, to see beyond the mirage, to recognize the difference between what is valuable and what is merely appealing. Every man must choose what he is willing to pay for. Some will give everything for temporary success, and they will have their reward, but only for a time. Others will hold firm, refusing to trade what is sacred for what is fleeting. They may not always rise in the eyes of the world, but they will stand in the eyes of eternity. The chosen do not measure success by what they have gained, but by what they have refused to lose.